Battery and motor technology has advanced to the point that the biggest strides and most talked about forms of transportation involve practical electrically powered cars, trains, motorcycles, and now bicycles. A number of powered bike solutions are already on the market. Some are merely cheap bolt-on accessories, and others are full-on high-tech carbon bikes costing thousands of dollars. Now in the fray, and fresh from its first wave of crowdfunding, comes the Sondors eBike, which started shipping to investors this summer. Hi, I'm Dave Burkhardt, and along with my brother, we've purchased, ridden, and evaluated the e-bike, and I'll share some of my impressions and thoughts. A little bit about our background. We've been riding bikes for more than 50 years. Cruisers, mountain bikes, road bikes, tandems, whatever. Between the two of us, we have 19 bikes in our garages. The rest we keep in my sister's garage. We've both taught bicycle maintenance classes, and it's the unusual weekend we're not wrenching a bike or three. So we know a little bit about bicycles. But powered bikes are brand new to us, and we were excited to ride the newest bike. So what is the Sondors e-bike? In short, it's a recreational level bike assisted by a relatively modest electric motor that's integral to the rear hub. I say assisted rather than driven because while you can scoot around on battery power alone, the intent of the bike is that it provides supplemental power when you're turning the pedals. The bike's design is meant to appeal to those who like the idea of a little extra help during short rides that could include running, errands, social rides, and commuting. For now, the bike ships directly from the manufacturer in China. There is some assembly required, including installing the front wheel, handlebar, and saddle. No special tools are needed, and a regular cyclist can accomplish the task in about 15 minutes. Besides the included assembly instructions, Sondors has a series of helpful videos on YouTube showing how to assemble and prepare the bike for riding. Most of the bike is not only pre-assembled but adjusted as well. The chain was a bit tight, and a simple adjustment, albeit having to loosen conventional rather than quick release hubs, was all that was needed. I expect it would take no more than 45 minutes between opening the box to fully assembled. Some nice touches, again considering the bike's price, is the fancy machine headset cap, brand name brakes, seat post quick release level for no tools saddle height adjustment, and beefy metal rather than cheesy plastic pedals. While there's some juice in the battery, I suggest fully charging before the first ride. Our model is in the Sondors signature screaming yellow frame with orange anodized wheel rims. If you're going to ride a different bike, it might as well look like a different bike. At its curb weight of 50 pounds, it's at least twice as heavy as our most heavy conventional bike, so don't expect to hang it from a hook on your garage ceiling or mount it on your car's roof rack unless your gym membership is up to date and your steroid supplier is totally reliable. After you get past the color scheme, the bike looks fairly conventional, except for those huge tires. Sondors says they're 4.5 inches. The tire itself says 4.9. Regardless, they're the first thing observers mention when they see the bike. Sondors will say they provide stability. There's nothing that makes a fat tire more stable than a skinny tire, so the jumbo rubber is really about marketing and making the bike distinct. And it works. A plastic battery housing takes up the space in the front frame triangle. You can access it through its hinged side to replace the battery that sits securely in built-in brackets. The battery itself is a single thermos-sized bottle that can be charged via an included mains cable through a port in the battery housing in a few hours. Initially, I pedaled the bike with no power other than my own. Other than its heftiness, the bike handled predictably, and once underway, the weight seemed to disappear. The flat handlebar allowed a comfortable upright position without being too upright, which would force the rider to have all his or her weight on the saddle. A seemingly favorable position for newbies, but a butt-numbing experience if you actually ride a bike that way. The disc brakes, which Sondors says are hydraulic in at least one video, are actually mechanically actuated. Still, they're capable, if not squeaky, and do a good job in bringing everything to a stop and controlling speed on a downhill. While riding and coasting, family members and friends found no issues with the bike and took to it immediately. The bike has a tendency to steer into a turn, which I suspect is a result of the fat wheels and frame geometry. You get used to it after a few hours. To ride with power, which is why you bought the bike in the first place, you first turn on a toggle switch at the battery housing. Then you press a switch at the thumb controller mounted near the right grip. While supposedly delivering a range of power, it isn't until you get halfway through the controls travel before you feel a surge of assistance. Don't expect a powerful boost, but a steady increase in speed. The motor and controller is governed by a circuit that limits its speed to 20 miles per hour on level grades. Later I'll mention how to overcome this limit. As I mentioned, during our test we pedaled and allowed the motor to assist us, which it did nicely. Short ascents were nicely flattened out by the power assist. In one section of the American River Trail that ascends to the road level, no doubt the steepest in our test section, adding full power allowed me to reach the top while remaining seated. On conventional bikes, I've always had to stand up and grind that portion. This is testimony to the bike's power. As I mentioned, I wanted to give this bike a real-world range test to simulate how a casual bicyclist might ride. Circumnavigating Lake Natoma on the American River is a scenic 11-mile jaunt with some short hills along and under oaks and other riparian plant life. Much of it is separated and hidden from the urban setting just a few dozen feet away. Views of the river are highlights, as are the Nimbus Dam and the Sacramento State Aquatic Center. Several non-paved sections parallel the main paved trail, and I turned into a few to test how the bike would respond. While hardly technical, parts of the trail were rough with a loose surface. The large tires allowed the bike to float above it all and handle predictably and sure-footed, if not as nimble as my mountain bike that weighs less than half. The final portion of the circuit, I'm guessing the final 2 to 3 miles, I used nothing but the motor to propel me on the rolling path. It was only then that on the short ascents did I see the battery level indicator drop from green to yellow. As the rises leveled out, the indicator went back to green. Again, even a bit of pedaling effort keeps the bike moving faster, and after all, since you're on a bike, why not pedal? I wound up riding about another few miles in the steep residential area of El Dorado Hills, which technically are part of the Sierra Nevada. The battery was still supplying juice. I've always taken battery endurance claims with a grain of salt, and while Sondors mentions more than 30 miles per charge, I would say 15 miles of mixed pedaling and pure battery use is a safe working distance with some margin of safety. Given the bike's price, design, and intended market, I'll list some pros and cons. The bike comes mostly assembled and nicely adjusted right out of the box. Mostly conventional build and setup allows adding third-party accessories like racks and fenders. Sturdy TIG-welded construction allows the bike to take a beating. The bike is surprisingly easy to handle despite its weight. The bike geometry allows a comfortable position without putting too much weight on the saddle. Access to the motor controller allows possible firmware upgrading. The current pricing makes the bike compelling and a great value. Those large wheels add rolling weight and resistance and aren't needed much beyond marketing. Quick release skewers and levers aren't that expensive. It would have been nice to see them as standard gear. I would have liked to have a more linear feel to the thumb control rather than everything stacking up in the last portion of the throttle travel. If Sondors is wise, and I believe he is, he'll do the following and sooner rather than later. Leverage the access to the controller to allow more capability, speed, governor override, and ability to provide a proprietary readout, or even better, the ability to link to iOS and Android mobile devices. It's obvious that it would take but a wheel change to add a powered front wheel and give the bike awesome climbing ability in sand, mud, and snow, not to mention faster acceleration and the ability to pull a trailer. A power tap off the battery could be used to charge mobile devices, add running lights, and power that front wheel. No doubt Sondors will begin offering a range of accessories including racks, fenders, and a range of tires. I recommend smaller tires, perhaps 3-inch, with light or even no tread for greater range and quicker handling. I would like to see a twist throttle option rather than the thumb controller. Also, brake upgrade options would be welcome. The standard brakes, while competent, don't feel any more positive than good cantilevers. My set tends to squeal despite careful adjustment. True hydraulic disc brakes have a better feel and response. Despite some niggles, I'm enthusiastic in recommending the Sondors e-bike to casual riders and commuters whose rides tend to be less than 15 miles. I also recommend the bike to those with family and friends that want to join in on social rides but would feel uncomfortable in riding hills or on trips longer than a couple of miles or so. I think the Sondors e-bike heralds a new age of affordable, practical, and friendly bikes that don't require an overwhelming financial or lifestyle commitment. It just works the way you expect a power bike to work, and being fun and easy to ride, it's almost a no-brainer to anyone wanting something else other than that 250 horsepower behemoth alternative in your garage. As of the time of this recording, Sondors is offering a handlebar-mounted LCD display and interface to the system controller. Sondors says it will enable access to 5 speeds rather than the standard single speed. The device will allow you to override the speed governor and customize the amount of pedal assistance. The display has an odometer and shows a more accurate battery level than the standard LEDs on the thumb controller. The device plugs into the controller part and costs $100.